We're going to move on now to automated news. Whenever possible, governments of all kinds, be they right-wing or centrist presenting as left-wing, they do love to outsource work to consultation companies like KPMG, EY and Deloitte, companies of such ambiguous outputting that I'm surprised anyone knows to hire them to do any job at all. Maybe whenever you walk in the office, they're just like, do you do this? And the consultants are like, should we just say yes? Yeah, and it's like, yeah, we do that. Of course we do that. I'm pretty sure the corporate mottos are, fuck it, let's give it a go. I can say for sure the only thing that they do produce with consistency is invoices. I can only liken them to Clippy, in that they pop up unnecessarily and insert themselves when nobody asks them to do so. You just see a little KPMG consultant pop up and is like, oh hey, looks like you're trying to govern. Would you like me to charge you for that? No, Clippy, no. Nobody wants your help composing erotic fan fiction. Just leave me and my dirty thoughts alone, please. Nonetheless, the government loves to get them involved in reports and other government tasks, which, it seems, they then continue the tradition of outsourcing by themselves outsourcing it again. But this time, they outsource it to AI. Yeah. As it turns out, Deloitte will be required to issue a partial refund to the Albanese government after admitting that it used AI to create a $440,000 report full of errors, including 3 non-existent academic references and a made-up quote from a federal court judgment. Which is bad enough as it is, but I need you to understand, dear listeners, the report that they made was a report to the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations to review the targeted compliance framework and its IT systems that were used to automate penalties in the welfare system if mutual obligations weren't met by job seekers. So let me just clear that up. That story again. A report about issues with automating systems in the welfare system used AI to automate a report about why automating systems was bad. Is this report written by a late 90s Alanis Morissette? Because it doesn't seem to understand irony. Now, the irony of that joke is that isn't really like irony in the classic definition of irony, and some of my clever listeners, they probably already know that. Which actually makes it ironic in the classic sense. Ha! Gotcha, fuckers! It was a literary trap the whole time, and all it took was you trying to actually the situation to make it become correct. Sucks to be you, suckers! Now, Deloitte did admit its welfare automation report contained fake references and fabricated quotes from non-existent judges. But they insist that the invoice was heavily peer-reviewed. Not a detail was missed. They dotted every decimal point and crossed every dollar sign. Deloitte has since apologised for the report, promising future reports will be fully human error only. And that's a guarantee that you can take to the bank and put next to the $440,000 that they've already deposited there. Now, to be fair and all balanced and avoid defamation, remember Deloitte has deep pockets and I don't want to get stuck in those pockets. Deloitte has agreed to provide a partial refund of the $440,000 they were paid to not generate a report that contained several errors and just simply made up evidence to back its own claims. While they have yet to confirm the value that they said that they would return, they will repay the final installment under their contract, which will be made public after the transaction is finalized. So wait a minute. They can just choose how much they want to pay back? I was under the impression that the government was so broke that it needed to pursue debts as small as $300 from the poorest, most vulnerable members of society in order to balance its budget. Well, apparently, financial accountability has an income threshold. Is this you, government? Is this you?
It's dubbed RoboTax, and it sounds eerily familiar.
My clients were not aware of these debts.
A controversial campaign by the Australian Taxation Office to collect on thousands of historical debts, some more than 2 decades old.
So tell me, government, are you broke or not? Because as far as I can tell, you still haven't tracked down JobKeeper overpayments from companies like Harvey Norman. Yeah, I still haven't forgotten about you, Harvey Norman, you bottom-feeding money vampire fucker. Seems there will be some very different rules for the corporations than there are for those of us you deemed have earned money erroneously from the government. You know you have whole teams of people to investigate people for that, right? Maybe they can be redeployed as a forensic investigation team into corporations. Then we can film them chasing down wayward corporations and dispensing justice, you know, like Border Patrol, but going after people who actually deserve to be shamed on national television. That's something that I would watch. Like, that's an actual true crime podcast that I could get into. If I was getting paid $440,000, I'd also happily just pay back a small chunk of it if I got to choose however much that meant. And if my choosing of that meant that you also signed 35 new contracts with me worth a total of $47.1 million, so that I don't really have to do any work, so that I can outsource that to AI again, but then this time just make sure the references are checked. Like, are you really losing any money at all? You should be losing contracts. That's what you should be doing. There should be some harsh punishments. We could give some small firms this work for less money. I think they'd love it. And guess what? They'd get the fucking work done properly. And I think the biggest concern that nobody has mentioned yet, in order to get these reports, Deloitte would have had to have uploaded sensitive government data to an unsecured system like ChatGPT, right? That's really the only way that this could have been done. Deloitte, one of the world's largest consulting firms, took sensitive government data, theoretically, and effectively said, hey, let's feed the Australian welfare system into a magic word machine and see what it burps up. That should be fun. A website whose main claim to fame is stealing the world's knowledge and art so that it can vomit out the likes of Harry Potter and in the style of Quentin Tarantino, and not even asking for any pay for violating both of those properties by smashing them together in an unacceptable way. Way too many descriptions of feet in that book. We can barely trust the government with your data at the best of times, let alone the Steelomatic 3000, and now Deloitte is just giving it to an algorithm that still can't tell the difference between fictional citations and reality itself. I'm tempted to admonish the machine for anything, but there's a fair chunk of humanity that also struggles with the idea that the Earth is round, or that the time of year that you are born can influence your personality, or that the Big Bang Theory is a comedy instead of a cry for help. So I guess I can't be too harsh on old ChatGPT. Now, despite proving that they have not done the work themselves, Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill says the government should, now that they've proved that they did not do the work themselves, Labor Senator Deborah O'Neill says the government should demand a full refund from Deloitte. The government confirmed, despite the errors, it will continue paying Deloitte as expensive mistakes are core to both of their brand identities. It's like a toxic relationship where the only safe word is consulting fee, ooh, consulting fee. On the plus side though, the AI that generated the fabricated Deloitte report has now been promoted to partner, so that's nice. So it's not all bad, I guess. If anyone's going to have to lose a job, it might as well be someone who wasn't doing that job in the first place. Deloitte, however, remains perpetually defiant, defending the report, claiming, well, it still has less errors than RoboDid actually did, so are we doing such a bad job?